All right, good morning. This is the April 2025 edition of our quarterly Friends of the Fall Line meeting. Thanks all for being here. Uh, Special shout out. Thanks, Gumby, for being here. I want to recognize we have an elected official. Let me make sure we only have one. Thanks for being here. Just so everyone knows, we record these, we publish them on SportsBacker's YouTube page. They're available. In perpetuity, and they should also eventually land on the Fall Line website. Our web team takes care of that. So if you ever want to go back and look at them, in particular, I like the October version where just 6 months ago we did a sort of a live route evaluation on Google Street View of the Bryant Park section that we'll talk about a little bit more um, on the following slide. But this is just we want to make sure that you know that these records exist and welcome your input, your questions, and your dialogue over these meetings and in advance of these meetings. So let me start my presentation here. All right, let me know if you're not seeing that. Move on. All right, funding status has not changed in quite some time. 281 million still secured. The last funding that we got was the 7.5 million from the State Trails Office last General Assembly. I should say last year's General Assembly, 2024. Project status. We're super excited that the Hanover section, and really Ashland, Hanover, and Northern Henrico section, charmingly named DB1, is on the cusp of being completed, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But they're making progress every day, and we've got Harold Dyson on from VDOT to give us a little overview on a couple slides from now. But it is very exciting, and I think this is going to be the spring and summer of really celebrating the opening of that 5 mile section. Uh, DB2 from Petersburg to Chester is also in progress, and I'll let Harold talk about that in a second. Um, we have a big public meeting tonight, April 9th, for the Bryant Park section. And the last that I've heard from Chesterfield, from the Fall Line specifically, is the 4 segments are underway on Route 1. But I did see just that they've had for the past few months have been working on the Falling Creek connector trail that had a public meeting earlier this week, and that would be a really exciting connector trail near on Route 1 near the Food Lion along Falling Creek, which is really a really cool and exciting thing to see. Um, we a bit of engagement. I hope my slides are in the right order. If not, I'll have to come back. The We have been actually I'm going to go out of order to make sure that we give folks a chance to talk. So Ryan, I saw you on. I put your email in this slide here, but do you want to give a quick update from Henrico about what's been developing?
Sure thing. Morning, everybody. Henrico County is continuing right-of-way acquisition. We're getting really close. Really just administrative stuff for the kind of remaining parcels in the lakeside area. We are anticipating to advertise all four of the lakeside sections. So that would be Lakesides 1, 2, 3, and the Brook and Hilliard project, as well as the Hilliard Road Diet all together. So hopefully that makes things a little bit easier for the contractors once we do go out there and build this thing. Goal for that is to advertise by August, and then the remaining 2 segments in Henrico County, the Villa Park segment and Longdale segment, hoping to advertise by the end of the year. So yeah, again, Hilliard Road Diet will now be advertised with the other 3 or 4 lakeside section segments. I see Grady. I see that comment. I'll touch on that in just 1 second. The other project kind of adjacent to Fall Line in the lakeside areas, the Dumbarton Road Safety and Mobility Improvements Project. This is another road diet that will extend from Brook Road all the way to Staples Mill. That one we are planning on doing the repaving and restriping kind of in July, August with a couple of signal replacement um, kind of signal replacements going on in September. So that road diet should be completed by the end of September. Um, Grady, your question about advertisement is really kind of the completion of all of the design, right-of-way acquisition, all that kind of um, all those kinds of tasks, and just asking, I guess, asking for prospective contractors who want to build the trail for bids, and again, that's usually a 2 or 3 month process. So I think we are anticipating construction happening by the end of the year on those lakeside segments. So good question.
Exciting. Any other questions for Ryan? Anything else about Henrico? All right. Moving on to I summarized this a little bit from what Morgan at VDOT sent me, but Harold, would you like to give a bit of an update about the about DB1 and DB2 or anything else you want to share about fall line administration?
Sure. This is basically a summary of what's currently going on. We're working in all 6 of the areas that we've got open. Uh, we're, we're doing a lot of paving. There's still some grade work taking place in some of these sections, stone being placed. The bridge is complete, so that was a big milestone. Now we just got to build the trail on either side of it. So that kind of just kind of gives you an idea of what we've got going on. One thing I would point out, we do see a lot of folks that really want to get out there. They're traveling on the trail either by foot or by bicycle, and we are still active in every section of the trail. There's still work going on. We had one individual that came out there while we were paving and got very close to the roller that was actively rolling the mat. Uh, we don't want to see anybody get hurt. So just, if you're talking to folks, we're trying to get it finished so that everybody has access. But we are working and it is active in every area. So
Thanks, Harold. We do every meeting we make the statement that the trail is officially not open yet. It's an active construction site, so we do our best to amplify that message. And I think at one point, and this was maybe 6 months ago, maybe even longer, there weren't a lot of like road closed signs and cones and fencing that kind of thing up. But we've seen recently that there's much more of that up there. So people should know that they shouldn't be able to access it, but it's I guess
everybody's
it's very tempting for people.
Yeah, everybody's excited, and when they see that black ribbon of asphalt, they want to begin using it, and I completely understand that. But there are still, there's safety fence that has to go up in terms of wooden fencing, and there's fall hazards, there's equipment moving back and forth, and some of that equipment does have blind spots. So if you're not familiar with where those blind spots are, you could find yourself getting injured. So,
Definitely. And from years past, not from riding on the fall line, but years past riding on just regular road resurfacing, getting asphalt and tar off of your bike is not fun. So just be patient. I just want to give a cue to the notes here. I just see the word complete a lot, which is pretty nice. And the it looks like you still got some grading, you still got some paving to do, and that most of that is scheduled for April, and a little bit of it is for early May. And
for example, the area up there between Boulder and Gwaltney Church, we've got all of the asphalt down, the safety fences in place, but we've still got to grade the shoulders.
Hey, Todd.
So, that's a good example where it looks like it's done, but it's not.
great.
So
That's awesome. I think if you need to roll, feel free to leave at any time, Harold. But I appreciate you staying on if you want to. We will be talking a little bit about the potential of the ribbon cutting, which we've been in consultation with Scott about. And so if you'd like to be on for that conversation, we can get to that in a couple of slides.
No, I'm good with that. I've got to run. One thing that you had asked me about DB2, which is the southern section. Um, VDOT is in the process of selecting a design build team. Actually, this week they're going through that process, so we should hear something soon about where that stands.
That's great. We look forward to working with our Tri-Cities and Chesterfield partners to start looking at when the time comes, ribbon cutting for that section. I think we'll have a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off.
Thanks, Harold.
Have a great one.
All right.
Brantley, sorry if I could just add as well. Hanover has signed an agreement with the CVTA for guideway signage along Hanover's section of the Fault Line Trail as well.
That's awesome. And this is Philip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks, Philip. Yeah, this is my last slide for locality or procedural updates. So, any other locality have anything to share? We do have a couple of slides on Bryant Park, so I'll maybe leave the.
I could jump in real quick,
Thanks, Barb.
Brantley, if you want.
Yeah.
We have one little section under construction right now. Messer Contracting is really kicking butt and getting that done in a hurry. And any day now we'll be advertising 3 UPCs under one contract. So, you know, anything anyone can do to spread the word about the advertisement of that construction contract so we can get a lot of bids and a lot of good bids. We're really excited about getting started with that section. And otherwise, we've got a few others that are just in the design phase underway.
That's great. Are you free to share what sections are under construction and are going out to bid?
The one that's under construction is from Dwight to Gettings, right across from DGSC. It's just like a block. The one that's going out to advertisement very soon is from Marina Drive all the way to Ellingham Avenue. Yeah, then we've got 1, 2, 3 other projects that are in design. I can tell you those offline sometime.
Yeah, that's great. And since I have you on the microphone, do you have anything to share about the Bikeways and Trails plan? I'm not sure it's not called that anymore. But the plan that you're working on?
Active Transportation, Chesterfield Active Transportation Plan. Yes, our update to the old Bikeways and Trails plan is underway. We're working internally to kind of evaluate data and try to find out, identify destinations and origins, where it makes sense to connect people to destinations. So we're working internally on that at the moment.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Or any other locality partners have anything to share? Well, I'd love to sort of wrap up this conversation on we're going through our internal work plan for the year and seeing what things we need to work on before the end of the fiscal year. And we spent a lot of time on our Bryant Park work, and we'll talk about that on another slide. But one of the things that's still to do this year is to focus on putting together a region-wide placemaking menu. So I think some of the work like you're doing with your active transportation plan, Barb, it sort of cues the conversation. Like we really need to reach out to each of our locality partners to say, are there some really salient options for where there's a trailside placemaking opportunity that we should get on a map somewhere and be cognizant of our ability to be a partner for it. So just if you're listening, we'll be reaching out to you probably later this month to set up some meetings for later in the fiscal year to see if we can start just brainstorming. I think we probably have some lower hanging fruit than others that we can start thinking about, either new parks or connections to other destinations. I know internally many localities already have some kind of prioritization, and I'd love to kind of get that in one place as something of an addendum to the Fall Line Vision Plan and to help kind of communicate those priorities to the public. So nothing that we really need to work on today, but we want to keep that conversation going. All right. So tonight, Bryant Park. You probably have read a few letters to the editor in the newspaper and other places, and those who are following the administrative side of this. Last year, the City of Richmond's consultants, or the City of Richmond and its consultants, put together a package of alignments that were considered for the fall line through Bryant Park, and there's been some interest in different alternatives, and so what we call the preferred alignment, which is the green alignment on this map, um, has gone through some additional analysis. Some different alignments have also been analyzed from a cost comparison standpoint, from a environmental impact standpoint, and tonight those details are going to be presented to the public in a meeting that we think will be lively and well attended. We still at Sportsbackers really support the green line. If you go back to that October meeting, you can follow along in our thought process. But as you can see just from this map, it is among the shortest ways that you can get through the park. It really connects almost all of the amenities that are in Bryant Park. Connects both parking lots, both active shelters, the soccer field, bathrooms, playgrounds. And it has very minor, if any, impacts to the disc golf course in the park, and circumvents a lot of the vibrancy and what some people might call congestion around the big market on Saturdays. And it really benefits pedestrians of all kinds. And when I say that, I mean people in wheelchairs, using walkers, people of all ages and abilities, where they are already walking now. Rosina's Lane is essentially the only paved way to get through the park that connects all these amenities, and there are no pedestrian dedicated spaces there. And not everyone is particularly capable of walking on unpaved natural surfaces. So we think this solves a demand and pedestrian safety issue that exists today, while also really highlighting the major amenities and the trailhead potential for this park. And it's a beautiful park. I've spent many summers here racing bikes, and I know just about every inch of it pretty well. But the other alternatives have been considered, at least to some degree. There is some demand, you should say, for basically having a fall line through the park that does not add any new pavement. And that's the attempt of using the pink line and the orange line are alternatives to the green line that theoretically could use existing roads. I won't go into great detail here because we have discussed this a fair amount, and it's going to be at the meeting tonight. But we just want to show that they're just by design longer. They are not in unlike the green line, which is the only line in the park that has street lighting today. They're unlit. They're much more of the natural setting of the park. These roads have cars regularly. They do not have cars all the time, but because of the big market, because of the Azalea Garden, because of access to the Bryant Park Bike Race, which is a loop that uses both part of the pink and the orange lines, cars regularly use these roads, and having a significant separated multi-use trail either they don't make a great option for that in their existing conditions, or they would require significant new pavement and tree impacts. So we expect that conversation to really be thoughtful and borne out tonight, with Timmons leading that discussion with the city. We've been doing a lot of our engagement to get people familiar with these options. The white line, which it might not jump out at you, but it's on the eastern side of the park here, was something of an 11th hour option that was provided about a month ago from some nearby residents. So I don't know if it's been given the same level of analysis, but it is essentially entirely green space and cuts through a significant section of the disc golf course. And it crosses, I'll show this on a picture in a minute, but it crosses the only major car bridge in the park near the main entrance. The main entrance is just to the east here. So you'll see some of the disadvantages of that. And it's really not, from an environmental standpoint, not that much less intense or impactful, if less impactful at all from the Green Line. So we'll see a lot of discussion about this tonight. A couple of pictures from a recent walk, and this is actually a walk from the people who are proposing the White Line, though we're responsible for about 2/3 of the people in the picture being there. You can see this is we're walking through the disc golf course now behind Shelter 3. This is a lot of virgin land that would have to be paved, as opposed to the Green Line, which is pretty impacted land in the park already because it's so heavily used. And you can see the bridge here that we would have to cross at a pretty steep angle if you're coming from the background here on the left. And so there's sight angle or sight line issues, there's speed issues, and this is a narrow bridge that, except for the tiniest of cars, you really can only have one car at any given time. On this walk with about 20 people, and we were here at about 1:30 on a Saturday, we must have seen 40 cars go by, and they stacked up while we were standing there. It was obvious how dangerous it really could be for a biking and walking standpoint, especially when bikes are moving at 10 or 15 miles an hour. Stopping distances and sight lines become really critical. So I just don't think that this alignment has a lot of credibility, but we just want to kind of have the conversation that, certainly we want to evaluate the different options. I think the city has done a good job at evaluating the options, and we want to support a decision to be made so we can actually get the trail built. We've done a lot of work to get community engagement. We actually worked with volunteers to mark all 4 of these alignments with color coordinated marking flags, and they've been out for a week now. So people could come on their own time and evaluate the 4 different alternatives. And hopefully, we provide some encouragement to think about how would someone in a wheelchair use this? How would someone with an invisible disability use this? How does this help someone who is visiting Bryant Park to see a soccer game with their grandchildren, but they need to be able to get to the bathroom, or they have to park at a lot that's not close to the soccer fields? How does the pink help? How does the orange help? And we think we've gotten a lot of that people are coming to some kind of agreement that the Green Line offers a lot of the benefits that we're trying to get with the Fall Line overall. We're pretty excited to see 18 organizations from around the region, but have some footprint in the city of Richmond, support the Green Line, and pretty proud of this coalition that's being built around the benefits of the Green Line. We'll see that conversation develop a little bit more tonight. Any questions on Bryant Park? We're expecting approximately 200 people. Where administratively, what we think is we understand that the Green Line has passed the Urban Design Committee and the Planning Commission. It's in Richmond 300, and everyone in the city suggests that it's compliant with that and would not need to go back to City Council. So we're moving on sort of forward with that understanding. But this meeting is certainly in coordination with, and we know that the local newly elected City Councilwoman Kenya Gibson is going to be a major participant in tonight's meeting. We'll see where the conversation lands at that point. This is very similar, in my opinion, to the Brook Road era 6 years ago, where we had about 300 people in the same venue, actually, the police academy. And we have a lot of people prepared to speak to support, in many ways, the ADA and disability improved experience that the Green Line provides in the meeting tonight. Anybody interested in discussing? I see a question. What is the format of the meeting? That's great. We actually have a lot of community members leading group rides from around the city to get to Bryant Park, or to get to the police training center to attend the meeting. So we'll be running bike valet. If you're encouraged to ride, we'd love for you to ride and make a visual statement of the demand for the community to have the Fall Line in Bryan Park. Um, and the meeting runs from 5 to 7. We're told that we'll start with like open board format, but there will be a presentation and discussion. We think that'll start approximately 5:30. Um, Certainly encourage you to get there early if you can. I know we didn't pick the time, and I think that 5 o'clock is a little bit challenging for people getting out of work, but we made the case that it needed to at least officially start a little after 5 o'clock so people could get there and get in and get settled. So that's all that I know. We're kind of prepared for a few different options, but we think folks should be, if open speaking happens, we want to make sure that some of the holistic benefits of the Green Line are represented by a good group of people. All right. Well, some upcoming things. We're on the cusp of May. It'll be here before you get there. And so we've begun our RVA Bike Month planning now in our 12th year. Some of the things that are coming up, most of these are on the Bike Month calendar, though the TVTA meeting won't be. We've got a cleanup on May 3rd it's a partnership with Virginia Community Voice. I say fall line route cleanup. It is not entirely determined what the fall line route will be in this vicinity in Southside. I think the official alignment in this area uses as Commerce Road heads south from the James River. It turns into Belmead Road, and then it turns south onto Route 1. When that alignment was chosen, there was no Broad Rock Creek Park. That's one of the new parks, relatively new parks that was established a few years ago. And there's an opportunity potentially to have the fall line go through that park, essentially cut the corner of Route 1 there. We are not pushing for that in any particular way, but that option is out there. And even if the route does not change, Broad Rock Creek Park will be adjacent to the fall line, and it's worth noting it's going to be a great place, and we'll have bathrooms and some other additional amenities for trail users. So we're partnering with a Southside group to do a cleanup in the park on May 3rd, and that's part of our quarterly service program that we do for the fall line. This is now the 3rd year that Rich, and I think I might have seen Rich on the call here. Rich,
I'm here.
who happens to work for Chesterfield County, has been leading the Richmond Urbanism Happy Hour, and every May has had a fall line themed event. This year we'll be celebrating DB1 and having a little walk. So, Rich, do you want to talk about your event?
Yeah, sure. I just put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to sign up. But yeah, me and Ann Darby, we co-lead this series of happy hour events with the American Planning Association's Virginia chapter. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any ideas for great events. We always like to feature bike ped stuff. And as part of Bike Month, as Brantley said, for the last 3 years, we've coordinated with Bike Walk RVA to feature different sections of the Fall Line Trail. So the first year we just sort of talked about the planning behind the Fall Line. Last year we walked the Chester Linear Park, which is going to be a section of trail just north of DB2 that was mentioned earlier. That's not completed yet. And it's exciting that this year we're actually going to get to walk part of the DB1 that's soon to be finished. So should be a lot of fun. It's super casual. We're meeting at Carter Park. The town of Ashland's hosting us. They've already reserved a pavilion for us there at the park. And then we'll have Brantley and Natalie give kind of just a brief overview of updates about the trail and specifically about the section. Nora from the town will talk a little bit about some of the initiatives the town's doing to take advantage of its terminus there in the town. And we'll just have a nice little walk and happy hour to follow at Origin. So it's not limited just to planners, so feel free to come out and join, and it's free. And Nora's also going to be raffling off a couple of gift cards to town businesses. So, but you have to sign up. So sign up on the Eventbrite link if you're interested.
Yeah, Rich does a great job. He says it's casual, and it certainly is in terms of like come as you are. But we've had 40, 50, 60 people at some of these events over the years. So I think it ends up being a really great crowd and a lot of great conversations with like-minded folks. So appreciate your leadership on that, Rich, and I'll see you on the 7th.
Sure thing.
Also on the 7th, this will actually be in the morning. what I think is the final CVTA Fall Line Working Group. We no longer will have a Wednesday morning conflict. For the at least for the Friends of the Fall Line quarterly meetings. And we're extremely excited to be able to host the group at Sportsbacker's new office, which is on the Fall Line. And we've been in now for about 3 weeks. We still have just a little bit of wet paint, but it has been really great to even see, on our 1,400-foot section of the trail next to our office, which goes through the ATM lane, to see trail users using it even in the past few weeks. Anything you want to? I don't know if I saw Chet on here. Is there anyone that would like to share? Maybe Barb, as the chair of the CVTA Fall Line Working Group. Anything you want to share? Yeah, pretty simple stuff. I think a lot the CVTA and its members and staff support should really be proud and look forward to keeping a lot of that conversation going here at the Friends of the Fall Line meeting.
I'm sorry, Brantley, I couldn't find the unmute.
That's okay.
I don't have anything to add. So.
Okay, I appreciate it. Well, if you haven't been by, we look forward to you joining on May 7th for the CVTA meeting, and we're around too. So we think of our of our office as a trailhead. It's certainly a part of Henrico's trailhead for the Fall Line. There are going to be exterior bathrooms. We're going to be working with the county on some park features like benches and landscaping, but also art and other celebrations of active living there. And we so far just couldn't be happier with our relationship with the city where the building is, and Henrico where the trail is, and Henrico as the owners of the building. Everyone's been very supportive, and we look forward to keeping that relationship going. And back after a few years, we'll have our bike ped counts. This year they'll be on the 6th, 7th, and 8th in the evening. We're working with Richmond Henrico Health District, as we did prior to the pandemic, to map out the most beneficial places to count and direct volunteers to do it in a sort of national leading protocol of how you count pedestrians using bike and pedestrian infrastructure, in an effort to just get more data, to get more volunteerism, more eyes on our bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and hopefully leading to improved decision making and helping to manage and implement new bike ped stuff throughout the region. I think we're hoping to have at least some in Henrico, as well as the city of Richmond, but we have not yet determined specifically where we will have them. And if you have specific demands, please let me or Peter Braun know, and we can make sure that they are included. I will say this is a little awkward. I'm going to go back a few slides now, because my slides are not in the right order, and I want to show a little bit of some of our additional sort of outreach updates. At the National Bike Summit, which is every March, we led the state delegation to meet our Congress representatives and senators at a time when we were learning that USDOT was planning to cut funding to applications that included bike and pedestrian infrastructure. This would very significantly and directly impact the city's application for the Mayo Bridge, and I'm sure other projects across the state. Unfortunately, I don't think that we've gotten any good news since that time, though I can certainly say Senators Warner and Kane are particularly passionate about the Mayo Bridge and about bike ped funding. So we have good people in our court on this issue, and I think that they're still working on it as best as they can. But we continue to think of the National Bike Summit as a great time to have these conversations, to talk about the Fall Line, talk about things like the Mayo Bridge, and we'll continue to keep doing that. It was also Natalie's first time. I think Natalie is working at the 10K Expo today, so just so you know, it's 10K week. If you have plans on Saturday in downtown and they are not the 10K, which they should be, just be advised from a traffic standpoint. We'd love to see you in Monroe Park. But it was her first time seeing some of what many of us have been able to see on our trips to the WNOD, to the Custis Trail, seeing the downtown network of bike lanes that use prefabricated concrete barriers or curb stops or flex posts that are in much higher frequency than what we've seen used in our region, and very effectively prevent cars from parking in them or driving in them. And we've also seen the high number of parks that dot the Custis and WNOD Trail that have playgrounds within feet of the WNOD Trail. They have basketball courts within feet of the WNOD Trail. They have soccer fields that are feet within the WNOD Trail, and they're not causing some of the safety implications that we've heard are of concern in Bryant Park. Just what we've seen work in other places, I think we should expect to work um, in Bryant Park, and it's so inspiring to see how well the WNOD Trail corridor works for people and connects people to, youth to being able to bike to a game. We look forward to that future in Bryant Park and throughout the whole Fall Line corridor. We now completed our 12th Bike Walk Academy. I think this year we had 17 graduates from around the region to to learn some best practices on how to advocate for biking and walking infrastructure. And you'll see many of them tonight. In particular, we had some folks from representing organizations like Sportable and Virginia Conservation Network, because we recognize that the Fall Line has really great opportunity to support environmental and ADA accessibility points. So we look forward to their advocate leadership on those issues and really kind of adding really legitimate dimensions to bike ped advocacy, that it can only happen with more people being involved. And a quick shout out to Plan RVA. They actually hosted us for 5 of our 6 sessions. I'm sure many of you recognize the mural in their boardroom here. Just have been really open door, great partners. We did have our last session actually in Bryant Park, and we graduated at our new office. So in this blue floored room, you can actually see you can kind of see the Fall Line in the upper left-hand corner. This is our new community room where the CVTA meeting will be held, and we look forward to hosting community meetings of all kinds, actually, from free fitness classes to even things like the Friends of Bryant Park board meetings. We'll host our own board meetings here, as well as a lot of our volunteer training from across SportsBackers program portfolio. So if you have a meeting that's active living related and you're in the neighborhood, keep us in mind, and if our room is available, we can make it available to you. Let's see. Okay, now back to my normal order here. Here we go. I'm super excited to share the theme of this year's Bike Month. Does anybody know the reference? Someone certainly has to.
Where the sidewalk ends.
Yeah, that's right. And who wrote that? Someone's got to know.
Shel Silverstein.
Shel Silverstein.
Absolutely. That's right. This is actually a little bit of a, you can probably tell that this is the Mayo Bridge. This is a bit of a riff on our funding problem. It's a little bit of a riff on, and in the best nature, the unfortunate crash of Principal Greg Music from Mary Mumford, who was hit, I guess, about 3 weeks ago now, while riding in a bike lane or exiting a bike lane to make a left turn. And just understanding the importance of completing our bikeway network, of, like, the safety just goes away as soon as the bike lane is over. And unfortunately, sometimes you hear conversations to say, like, well, the bike lane was dangerous and that was why Greg Music was hit. And it's like, you're just really missing the point when that's the conversation that people start to have. And we want to make sure that people think about what we're trying to achieve with dedicated space for people biking and walking. I also think that this is a really great nod to Mayor Danny Avula for his leadership on the Mayo Bridge. And while we're at potentially a bit of a funding impasse, I really appreciate the way that he has taken the conversation around the Mayo Bridge and uplifted the advocacy of the neighborhoods and the river group, and of course the biking and walking movement, to think of it as a signature place for biking and walking, and investing in the safety of the design of the forthcoming replacement of the bridge. So I think this theme, as always, is meant to be a little cheeky and also meant to be kind of nuanced in all the things that we want to share about the biking and walking moment that we're in. And also, just personally, it feels very nostalgic, and I think our graphic designer did an amazing job. So if you see Dion, give him a pat on the back. All right, that's all I've got to share today. As always, we encourage you to take a look at the Fall Line Vision Plan. We'll be reaching out to our local partners to see, again, if we can kind of think of an overlay of the Fall Line corridor of potential high priority or near-term placemaking opportunities, and to think about how we can support those. And our next meeting is in exactly 3 months, July 9th, same time and place. And we'll make sure you have that access to the Zoom. Oh, this is a great question. Andy, yes, I guess this is John's official last meeting, though I think we're going to keep him on the hook for attending as a citizen. I did see John on here. Do you want to say anything about that? He might have jumped off. Nope, he's here. Yeah, John is retiring at the end of the month, and I did not put a slide in here, but we have recently announced, and I had nothing to do with this, but I'm very supportive of the decision, that our new executive director is an internal hire, Will Dixon, who has been our chief administrative officer for the past few years, but has really come up through the ranks at Sportsbackers, started as an intern, worked in our development office, became a development director, then chief administrative officer, and he really knows the DNA of Sportsbackers and has the passion. And I've now worked with him for going on 13 years, and very excited for Will to be taking the helm. And it's great timing, and I want to give John some credit on how he's crafted this process for Will to be hired. He, of course, as executive director, worked with the board to set up the succession plan, but he was not on the hiring committee, and they let them make their decision. But since they've made the hire, we now have a few months for John to really focus on onboarding Will, and for Will to kind of take the helm with some guidance, which I think is great. So I would, if you see Will, I'd certainly encourage you to give him some congratulations. If you don't know Will, I'm happy to introduce him to you. I think you'll start seeing him a lot more.
Yeah, so Brantley, Andy, thank you. Yeah, I guess officially last meeting. I earlier when Todd, you're retired, I made him promise that every year we would get together and ride whatever sections of the Fall Line are open. So we're already making plans to ride the northern section here. So yeah, I might be retiring, but I'm not going away. And the Fall Line is very near and dear to not only what I do at Sportsbackers, but how I personally want to see our community be built, and the outcomes that it'll provide for people. We'll keep living and keep going for the however long it takes to get it done. So yeah, I'm going to be an advocate for the Fall Line forever. So how that works, how forever is, but I don't have to work at Sportsbackers to do that. So thank you.
And yeah, to end, final note, Philip, you bring up a good point. This is not official yet. I think we're getting close. We're getting very close to this. Just want to make sure that we have enough availability from our local decision makers. But it's looking like May 22nd will be the ribbon cutting for DB1, the Ashland, Hanover, Northern Henrico section of the Fall Line. Likely going to be 10 a.m. and very likely to be a very similar format and location as the groundbreaking last year. We have sent. We're coordinating with Scott and VDOT, coordinating with Henrico, Hanover, and Ashland boards of supervisors and town council, as well as our leading staff, many of whom are on the call here, It looks like 10 a.m. on May 22nd, which is a Thursday, works well, and I'm trying to make sure that we get that confirmed procedurally in the next few days so I can get it on the RVA Bike Month calendar. But if you're so inclined, feel free to pencil that in on your calendar. And I definitely think it's a celebration worth for the whole region. Phil, that was it was at the basically the southern end of the concrete boardwalk section of the trolley line trail. Um, at the transition to the new section where it's paved with asphalt going into the Hanover Park section, sort of where the concrete company is. This is to be confirmed for sure. That there may be um, designs on having it near the bridge or something like that. So we still have to do all the actual work to plan the event. But it'll be in Ashland or Hanover, almost definitely. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's time. I think I'll be seeing many of you tonight at the Police Training Academy. And wherever you are, I encourage you to cross your fingers. Thanks very much.